Okay, we are on number 5. It says here, Jeremy and Sarah built towers out of Legos. Jeremy's tower had a, it should be an 8-inch square base. Sarah's tower had a 4-inch square base. If Jeremy's tower had a volume of 192 cubic inches and Sarah's had a volume of 128 cubic inches, whose tower was taller? Explain your reasoning. So they both have a tower, and if you notice here, I kind of separated it so you guys can see what they drew. So this is Jeremy's tower. All we know is that it is 8 inches, and we know the volume is equal to 192. I got that right here where it says if Jeremy's tower had a volume of 192 cubic inches. So I'm going to divide 192 by 8 in order to figure out what is the height of Jeremy's tower. So now I'm going to divide. I need to figure out how many times does 8 go into 19. 8 times 2 is equal to 16. I subtract. 9 minus 6 is equal to 3. Bring down my 2. 8 goes into 32 4 times because 8 times 4 is equal to 32. Subtract 32 minus 32, which gives me my answer of 24. So I know that the height of Jeremy's tower is going to be 24. So I'm going to write, I guess I can just leave it here as it is. Now I'm going to solve for Sarah's. For Sarah's, I'm multiplying length times width times height. So I have 128 divided by 4. And the reason why I put 128 because we know the volume. The volume is equal to 128 cubic inches. So I took that number and I divided it by 4 because 4 is the base, which is 4 inches. So now I can divide to find the height. I know that 4 can go into 12 3 times. 12 minus 12 is equal to 0. Bring down my 8. 4 can go into 8 2 times. 8 minus 8 is equal to 0. So again, I have 32. So for Sarah's, I have 32, and for Jeremy, I have 24. So I'm going to write down Jeremy's tower's height is 24, and Sarah's tower's height is 32. I divided the volumes by the bases and got my answer. So who has the bigger tower or the taller tower? That is going to be Sarah. Okay, now I'm going to turn the page. On the next page, it asks me to read the statement, circle true or false, and explain your choice for each using words and or pictures. Okay, so on your test, I'm not going to require you to explain because it is multiple choice. So what that means is that you're either circling true or false or marking true or false. So some of these questions are on the test, so make sure you're writing this down so you understand. And I'm going to explain as I go. So problem A, all parallelograms are quadrilaterals. And this is true. A parallelogram looks like this, right? And they do have 4 straight sides, so all parallelograms are a type of quadrilateral. So if you notice, they are all parallel and they all have 4 sides, so they are always a quadrilateral. That is true. For problem B, a rectangle is because the angles in a rectangle are 90 degrees, it is not a parallelogram. That is false. Because not only is a rectangle have 90-degree angles, but all sides of the rectangle are parallel. A rectangle is a parallelogram because it has 2 sides that are parallel. So one side, one right here, and then the other side right here. The whole entire rectangle is parallel. Now, problem C. The sum of the angle measures of any trapezoid is greater than the sum of the angle measure of any parallelogram. That is false. And the reason being is the sum of all shapes are measured to 360 degrees. Whether you have a circle, a square, a rhombus, a rectangle, interesting shape, it is always going to equal to 360 degrees. It does not matter what shape it is always going to equal to 360 degrees, okay? Problem D. Squares are rhombuses but not rectangles. This is true. Squares and rhombuses are the same, but rectangles have uneven sides. So a square and a rhombus are the same, but a rectangle is not. Problem E. The opposite angles in a parallelogram have the same measure. That is true. The opposite angles in a parallelogram do have the same measurements. So for an example, if this angle right here is 60 degrees, the angle on the other side is also 60 degrees. And problem F, all squares are rhombuses. This is also true. All squares are rhombuses. Remember I told you earlier, a square and a rhombus are equal to each other. They are the same. I always have a hard time drawing rhombuses. Problem G. The following figure is a parallelogram. True, the figure is a parallelogram because it has parallel sides. There is one parallel side right here and another parallel side right there. And how do I know it's parallel? If you notice, the lines are going the same way. And that's how I know they are parallel to each other. Okay, now how about a trapezoid? If I have a trapezoid, not all the sides are parallel. It's still considered parallelogram because it has one parallel side, but this side is not parallel because they are going to clash together if the lines actually were next to each other. They would actually intersect and meet. Okay, so that is all for the review. And make sure you are studying your notes so that tomorrow you do very well.